You only get one shot. Are they going to click on that and look more at the listing, or are they going to move on?
Real Estate Radio Boston with loan officer Rick Shearer of Guaranteed Rate.
If you are dealing with someone that doesn't understand those micro markets, you're going to be steered completely in the wrong direction.
And legal professional Ali Alavi of Alavi Braza PC.
It's a transaction for us, but it's someone's home.
The biggest anxiety I felt, am I going to get the mortgage?
It all breaks down to communication.
Real Estate Radio Boston gives you the information you need to succeed in today's housing market.
Just agree on something?
Yeah, we actually did. Isn't that amazing?
I love that.
You're giving me this blank stare.
Yeah, because I'm trying to figure out where you're going with this. But
you left his lawyer up.
He's handsome too.
Rick Shearer, NMLS ID 454910. This is Real Estate Radio Boston.
What is it about associations that's so unique in terms of the fact that they are able to create those restrictions and get away with it?
Well, because condominiums exist because of the statute. Without a governing statute, you would not have a condominium.
Right.
But the Massachusetts statute is referred to as an enabling statute, which pretty much means that outside of the bare bones of the master deed and bylaws and what they need to contain, the developer is free to draft the documents and contain whatever restrictions that he or she may think are appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you get into things like short-term rentals are prohibited, dogs might be prohibited, pets might be prohibited, all the various things that a developer thinks might be appealing to the vast pool of buyers out there.
Right.
So that's where it starts. And private communities are permitted, as long as they're not discriminatory, can put in restrictions governing what you can and can do within the common area, what you can and can't do within your unit.
That's an interesting point you're saying. You're saying that as long as that particular class is not a protected class, which is really what this entire analysis is centered on, because they can't discriminate against gender and skin color and so on and so forth, or religion and
right.
all that, because those are protected classes. But when you're dealing with restrictions that are not within the framework of a protected class,
seems like everything's game.
There's no holds barred, it seems like.
It's open season.
Developers also tend to leave things out when they feel that certain restrictions would somehow chill their
ability to market and sell the units, yeah.
Exactly. So what happens is sometimes when people move into a condominium and they take over control, they realize there are restrictions that are needed. Now, the second point that I wanted to make was that restrictions generally with regard to real estate are disliked in the law. The law doesn't like restrictions.
Right.
But in a very famous case, the Spadafora case, Franklin versus Spadafora, the Supreme Court said that condominiums, because of the density and the ability of the closeness of neighbors one to another, condominiums are probably the most appropriate place for restrictions in real estate.
So even though law doesn't necessarily... one of the more attractive term that a lot of the investors are using are LLCs.
Right.
What are some of the benefits and what are some of the drawbacks of establishing an LLC, which for those who haven't heard of it, is a limited liability company or a limited liability corporation?
So limited liability companies are relatively recent, created by legislation. They're a hybrid of a corporation and a partnership where you get a lot of the benefits of liability protection that are offered through a corporation, but you get the also from a tax perspective, you get the benefits of partnership taxation typically. So for a lot of people, it's probably the most common way or preferred way to own real estate because of the benefits of the taxation issue and then the liability issue. The other nice thing about the liability protection is you protect your personal assets from the assets in the LLC. So if someone gets harmed in the LLC, it's hard for them to reach your personal assets. If you hurt someone outside of the operation of the LLC personally, it's hard for them to get at the assets of the LLC. Obviously, as an investor, you're looking at trying to maximize revenues and minimize expenses, and then the trade-offs of what sort of liability exposure that you have out there. If each year for the liability protection, you're often paying registration fees to the state or whatever government with the properties are in.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a trade-off for cost purposes. Do you want to pay $500 plus per year just in filing fees for each LLC you have? Now, for each LLC you have, you can isolate each property. So if you have 3 LLCs and you have 3 properties, each LLC is isolated. So if someone gets hurt in LLC A, they can't reach the proceeds of LLC C or B.
Right.
And vice versa. Now,
Or your personal assets.
or
for
your
that
personal
matter.
assets. So if you combine 3 properties in one LLC, then they can reach into those different A, B, or C, while your personal assets are still protected. So again, it's a cost-benefit analysis. Now, if you have, well, I often talk to clients about if you have 3 properties, each $1 million a piece, it might be worthwhile more to have 3 separate LLCs. Now, if you have 3 properties and they all each have $100,000 of equity in them after debts and mortgages, then you might put one LLC together, knowing that you're protecting about $300,000 of equity.
The majority of the proportionate share of your payments every month is interest.
Front loaded. You got front loaded interest, so that really you start really banging down principal as you start to get towards year 7, 8, 9, 10 of your mortgage. That's really where you see it start to switch over, and you start banging down most of it. So what that does is, the downside is you're paying a lot more interest, but the upside is your interest deduction is higher in those years, which means that you give your interest deduction form to your tax preparer, and he'll let you know exactly how much you're going to get back.
The maximum amount of interest that could be deducted is $1 million. So not very many of us actually can hit that threshold, which essentially means all of your interest is deductible. So talk to your tax professional.
And
about
one
that.
other thing to that is so if you have a $1 million first mortgage, you can have a $100,000 second mortgage and still get all of that tax deductible as well. Anything over and beyond that.
Exactly, which actually it brings up a good point, because you can deduct mortgage interest, not only for your primary place of residence, but also for your second home. So this, there's individuals that go out and buy a vacation home. That's their second home. Mortgage interest on that is also deductible.
Correct.
So talk to your tax professional.
You know what's kind of cool about that too is they call a second home, as long as it's got a bedroom and a bathroom, people can write off their boat's interest if they're financing a boat.
If they're using it as a second home.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. But let's talk about something that sometimes is tax deductible and sometimes it's not, and that's private mortgage insurance. And we've talked about it on here. Essentially, when you're putting down less than 20% on a property, typically you're required to take out private mortgage insurance. And so over the last 2 years, it has been in the budget to make that tax deductible. And typically, if you're making under $109,000 a year, that you have the ability to write that off. Now, if you make over that, or your household income is over that, then that deduction starts to fade away. Now, I mean, they haven't settled upon the 2017, so we don't necessarily know yet if it's going to be rolled over. My guess with this administration is probably won't be.
There's a strategy that you can employ that you can always benefit from the tax deductibility of that. And we've talked about this in the past. It's called lender-paid mortgage insurance.
Right.
You essentially are taking the premium of the mortgage insurance and you're building it into your interest rate. And we just got off saying that interest on your mortgage is always deductible.
Right, no matter how much you make.
No matter how much you make. And so therefore you can build that premium into your rate and benefit from that tax deduction going forward.
Yeah.
Again, talk to your tax advisor and certainly call 855-4ASK-RIC, and Rick can certainly walk you through that if you're planning on refinancing or purchasing a property.